Hi everyone. I'm Alberta Balsam, and I create music with Ableton and with hardware as well. Today I'm going to show you two things, a little bit about how I create music when I'm using hardware, and I'm also going to show you a track that is a little bit more finished, so you can see how I work in Ableton, and I'm going to show you a bit of that. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to ask them in the chat, and then I will answer them. So I thought first maybe it would be nice to say a bit about my process and how I think about that. I think you have to make a lot of IDs and then pick those out, like the best IDs, pick those out and make something nice from them. So I create a lot of IDs, so I thought maybe it would be nice to also show you my file sorting system. So this is my computer, and this is my, the folder is called Music Machine. This is my machine. So I start with putting a lot of new IDs in a folder. It's called New IDs, and I mark them also with my file marking system. And then I put everything that is cool into my potential songs. So let's show you a bit what I have here. So I use Ableton as my main hub, the central thing. I have a couple of templates that I use. This is the Electron template I use. Just this is the rhythm. It goes into the computer by USB, and this is a Digitone. It goes into the computer by USB. And then I just have all the tracks already laid out, so I can multi-track record them through Overbridge. I also have a different template. That's my studio template, where I have all my inputs already laid out from the Fireface. So if anyone wants to see that, then please say so. I can also show you that. And I have a default template that is just like empty, but with a couple of effects tracks already laid out, so that if I want to make music in the train and I don't have any gear, then I also can start right away. And it's really cool with Ableton 11. You can now have a lot of different templates already saved, and you don't have one set default template. You can have a couple, or like as much as you like. Let me show you what I have here. I have the analog rhythm here for the beats. It goes via the USB cable into the computer. Then I have the plugin, the analog rhythm plugin here, as you can see. And the really cool thing about Overbridge is that because you have this plugin here, you can route all the tracks. So I have the bass drum here, and you can say here, okay, go from analog rhythm, and you can pick all the separate tracks. I really love that. It's really great. So let me show you how it sounds. Let's turn everything off. So yeah, that's the analog rhythm part, and it goes multi-track into the computer, so you can just make up a cool ID in the analog rhythm and then multi-track record it. I also have the Digitone here now. It's all synced, so if you push play on Ableton, it's synced and it plays right away. And also if you change the tempo in Ableton, then it also changes on the analog rhythm and the Digitone. So they're not hooked up together; they are just hooked up by USB to Ableton. So the Digitone, I will show you that as well. It's here. It is exactly the same concept. It has the Digitone plugin. You can activate Total Recall, which is here. So if you change anything, you can save the pattern with your patch, with your Ableton file, so you can recall it if you open the project later. And that's, I think, a super cool feature about this thing. Then I have 4 channels. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. It corresponds with the 4 audio tracks from the Digitone. And what is really cool about the Digitone is that it's also an audio interface, so you can use the inputs of the inputs left and right also as an interface. So what I have here is in the left input I have put the grandmother, and the MIDI out from the Digitone is sequencing the grandmother. So the MIDI I put in here, it sequences the grandmother, and the audio from the grandmother goes back into the Digitone, and then we can process it as well. So I can show you that too. So the fun thing about this is that I can now process the output of the grandmother using the Digitone, so I can put a little bit more chorus or delay on it using the effects of the Digitone. And I can also sequence the grandmother, so I can put in more MIDI notes, for example. And this is a bit how I play live as well. If I make ideas on this setup, I can then transfer them to Ableton, and I can record them and I can make tunes out of it. So let's show you what I have here right now in total. So yes, that's what I have here in total now in my setup that's here right now. Let me show you a little bit more about what I'm doing at the rhythm. I use both the analog sound engine as well as the samples. And for the samples, I mainly have some found sounds from field recordings and that kind of stuff. And I have a lot of 808, 909, and 606 samples, like the classic drum machine samples. I don't know if can people see the screen? Okay. So here I have the kick, for example. Here I use mainly the analog sound engine, so you can do a lot of tweaking with it, Should I put it softer there, or is it okay? Okay. Yeah, and you can layer it with some other stuff. So here I have some 808s or maybe some Foley. I use a lot of overdrive here. I can put it a little bit softer. And depending on the song, we could make the decay a bit shorter if we have a really heavy bass going on. Let's put this back. So yeah, that's the kick. So what's really cool about the Electron stuff, what you can do is parameter lock all the steps. So it means that every step you put in, you can change the parameters. So I really think if you have an Electron, you should really use this. And what I really love is the probability, so the chance parameters. So I can add some steps that don't come every round, they just come once in a while. And you can also record what you're doing here. So yeah, that's cool. Same for the hi-hats. So I have some things, different things going on here. Let's put a filter on it. And what's really fun is the new firmware update of the rhythm has this randomizer function, so you can just press the button and say yes, and then it just randomizes the LFO. A bit loud. So that's what I have now, and also a function I really love is the re-trigger function. So you can do re-trigger, so if you press one button, it plays more often. I can show you this. So let's play this one and do the re-trigger. So now it can do these 32 notes. But it's a bit too much for every round, so I reduce the probability that it's going to play. And now it just plays only some of the circles. And I really like it if you use a probability, you get a bit more excitement and changes in your rhythm. Okay, so. So that's what I have there. So the sequencer of the Digitone is really cool because you can pick a scale, and it's for lazy musicians or people without music theory knowledge. It's super nice. So here you can see I've chosen a Phrygian D5 scale. It sounds very complicated, but it's actually just a choice you do there. And you can copy the scale and copy it to every different sound. And then you just have this scale that's already set up for you. So I did this on this sound as well. And now if I play a new sound, I can just add notes that are in tune automatically. It's super easy. It's a really great sequencer. So let's play something. So it's just something random. I can quantize it so it's in tune. And then all these parameters can be automated and recorded as well. Let's add some effects. And the MIDI pattern I have on the grandmother is also in the same scale. So it's also in Phrygian. Let's hear it. Yeah, so those are those two devices. That's what I do with them mainly. So it's a bit of a summary, but it's the main thing I do there. Then let's talk about how I've the grandmother set up, because I did some patching. The grandmother is synced up to the Digitone by MIDI, so it receives MIDI both notes, but also the clock. And the rate knob here is synced to the overall MIDI. So I have the gate out from the sequencer. It goes into the sync input of the rate. So the LFO is now synced to the whole project I'm doing here. Yeah, so now this is what you hear, the flutters are the synced rate of the LFO. And then it goes into the filter cutoff. So the filter cutoff is synced to the rhythm. All right, so that's how I do it here. So what I would do now if I would be making music at home, because I really like this pattern, I would record it, and it's so super easy. You just hit the record button. Let's put everything on. Maybe it's a little bit too much. So now I have all the everything recorded, and it's way too much at once. So we have to arrange this. Let me see. So I have this here. Does anyone already have questions? No. Okay. So what I would do now is just make sure we create a pattern with this. I have the drums here. Let's turn this off. Yeah, so we can go in now and create a whole track and arrange it. So I start just by keeping it a little bit sparse and get the elements to come in one by one. Has a bit much bass in the hi-hat, so I already remove it a bit. and this synth sound is super dry, so let's add some effects. I really love the Arturia effects bundle. It's all modeled to old equipment. So I've here the plate one. And it's also a bit soft, so let's add some compression. So then I have 4 effects returns that I always use. It's a short plate I use mainly for drums, and it's just a short plate reverb. And then I rolled off the lows already, so that's easier for mixing. I also have a long plate that is a little bit longer. It's more for the synths and the reverby stuff. And then I have oh, it's not there. A long, lush reverb that I use really for a spacious and super ambient effect. I really like to use the same effects a lot because then it also gives you a similar sound, and you've chosen these effects because you like them, so they really contribute to your overall sound. Yeah, so what I would do now is just lay out the track, the rough arrangement, see what works, and already put creative stuff like reverbs on top, and already start also sculpting the sound a bit and creating like already a vibe of what it's going to sound like. So it's a bit static, the sound that's here. So I'll put a filter on it, and then I can let it gradually come in and come out again. Just put this here. Yeah, so here this is a bit soft again and doesn't have any reverb. Needs more reverb, of course. And then let's get the beat back in. Oh. So I think what we really need now is a good bass. So I've used the hardware now, and it would be great to have a nice soft synth bass. Actually, my two favorite things I use for producing are Ableton and Analog Lab by Arturia. It's just having a $1 million studio in your computer. So Analog Lab is really nice because it has a lot of old synthesizers like the ARP, the Solina, and the SAM. I especially love the Matrix 12, which is something from the beginning of the 90s as well. So let's add a bass. Just this one is fine. So because I have the grandmother by USB to the computer, I can also use it just as a MIDI keyboard and as a controller for the soft synth. So it actually serves a double function, both as a synthesizer and also as a MIDI keyboard, which is super convenient. So you only need one thing. Oh, now it sends MIDI here. So. Yeah, so then it's a question of just checking out what kind of notes are going to work with this pattern and playing them in, and just let it run for a minute and see what you can come up with. So maybe I like this last part the most. I played one wrong note somewhere, so we can remove that one. So let's make a loop of this part of the MIDI pattern. It's here. So that's how this is working. Let's also put a little bit more of effects on the drums. I'm going to delete the patterns that I did, like the tracks that I didn't use, just for my overview of what I'm doing, because these are all empty. Bye. And then let's also delete this one. So yeah. So this sounds a bit, the volumes are all over the place. Some of them are loud and some of them are less loud, and it's also a bit piercing and hard. So let's get a little bit of the highs out of there. And let's add an effect. Let's see what we have here. I love the effect rack. I use the browser a lot to find my stuff, and then so I really love to tweak the effects myself, because I think then you get a bit more into how it works instead of just flipping presets, and really look for a groove that is going to work. So maybe a 16. And get some of the lows and the highs out of the way here. Put it a bit to the right. So I'm actually already mixing a little bit here. And that one is super loud, so yeah, so that's my bass. It's a bit of a weird melody, but it's just for showing. I put a bit of compression on here, so the volumes stay the same. yeah, and now I would just work on the whole arrangement and maybe also add something more like a cool lead synth or yeah, well, try to finish the whole thing. We already have 2 minutes here, so wow. It's already getting somewhere. Um, let's also show you one of my more finished tracks. So I will open that project. And if you guys have any questions about this, then please let me know. Save. Over 10 minuten doen we een vragenronde. Oké.
Well, first of all, did you start producing?
How?
Question.
Okay. I was actually I played keys for a long time already, like just piano, and I got a MIDI keyboard to play in my student room, and then I discovered that you could connect it to using MIDI cables. I was already, I think, 21 by then, and I downloaded like a cracked version of Ableton, sorry, and of course. So I started just recording loops and things I played on the piano, and then I really got really hooked into Ableton, so hooked that I really couldn't do my exams anymore because I was behind my laptop and I was like, okay, let's open Ableton again and make tunes. And then I stopped going to university and
You got hooked.
then I got hooked. Yeah, so it was really because I played piano and just discovered Ableton, and then I started with doing that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Another question is, well, do you prefer analog or digital sounds, or is it just?
This is the classic question.
Yeah, yes.
I don't. I think it's like, do you prefer Chinese over French cuisine or something? I mean,
You can't.
it's both. It can be delicious and it can both be awful. And I think you should mix the two up. Here I've like an analog synth that I could never replace with anything digital that's on my computer. This is an FM synth, so it's actually digital sounding. I think I love the combination the most of having both analog sounds and then having some nature or natural sounds and having like digital and harsh sounds. So then the digital sounds pierce through the analog sound a bit more.
So balancing is key, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how much time do you usually spend on a track? Or, yeah.
It's a good question because I think, well, to really finish a track from beginning to end, I think you have to put in quite some time because you have to put in all the details and put in some fills and then make the track work. So maybe 40, 50 hours a track. I think if once I decide that it's a good one to finish,
Yeah.
I would spend that much time. But then there's also a lot of time before that to get to the point that you are like, okay, this is something I want to finish. So maybe I make 20 ideas and I choose one. So I don't particularly. Maybe sometimes you spend a lot of time on creating all those ideas, and then suddenly you find one, and the main idea of the track is already finished in 2 hours.
Yeah. But then you're still like 40 hours of mixing, or yeah.
It depends also on how well you already arrange the track and how well the sounds are laid out. But yeah, I think if you really add it up in total to a finished track, I think I would say 40 hours and then come back later and then tweak it a bit, and then after 1 month you listen to it again and you're like, oh, it's weird or it doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Like it's getting annoying or something or that.
Yeah.
I understand. Another question is, are you going to release any music soon.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I heard.
I am actually not sure if I can say it already, but there's going to be an EP out on Dekmantel really soon, so that's really cool. Yeah, I'm really very proud of that.
And can you tell us a bit about it, or is it?
Yeah, it's a really varied one, so it has a bit of an electro feel and also some pretty experimental sounds, and it has some of my voice things on it as well.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that were the questions in the chat, and yeah, we will come back with another round of questions soon.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I was explaining, this is my drums. It's really plain 808 thing. And then I have the bass pattern here. And the bass pattern is a patch from Analog Lab. It's probably just the first patch that opens when you open the synth. It's the 3 Os. It's just a plain mini Moog bass thing. And these are the MIDI notes I have here. It's I'm a bit crazy because I literally, it looks really sequenced, but I put this all in with my mouse. So it's so what I did here is I just start with the bass notes, like the basic bass notes, like here the C and the D and the C again and the B flat, and then I add all these notes in between and add octaves like you would do if you would sequence a 303 or something. Then you would also use these octave switches. So that's what I did here. There's a plate on it as well because I love reverb a lot. And then I use a lot of automation here. So I'm automated the cutoff and the chorus and also the noise to give the sound, to change the sound up. It's really cool. What you can do in Ableton is just push right mouse click and then you can put your automation here. I love that function. So that's how I give it this really moving feel, like it's changing all the time. And what I also did is add an arpeggiator, and it's only on in a few parts of the song. And it makes the bass line go crazy. Oh no, I didn't do that, but sometimes I even automate the steps and the distance and everything, so it goes wild. So it gives it a bit of a funky feel. Yeah, and that's it. And there's also a flanger on it. So great sounds together. So that's the bass line. What I then do once I created a bass line is add some cool synths that are in the same key. I have this here. And conceptually, what I really look for when I start adding melodies or synths to it is the bass line is really funky and it has this really short percussive element. So then when I start adding synths, and the bass has this 16 feel, it's quite fast. So then it's nice to have a synth that is going slower. So this synth is longer and it goes like half time when you compare it to the bass. So then the next section in the song, I really like to switch things up so that it suddenly changes a bit, but it still has the same melody into it. So I have a different bass patch that just plays the long notes, and it's really sort of short and it goes along with this synth. And this one is actually the bass line, but it's just I put it in on the synth, so it's not different notes. It's just the same notes as the bass line that was before. So then it goes into the next section, and I really want things to open up, so I just put this long pad that has chords that fit to it. So I studied music theory, so I use this technique for pads that's called counterpoint. It means that it sounds really complicated, but what I do is actually when I have a synth, a chord that goes like this, the next chord goes inwards, and then the chord after it goes outwards. It sounds complicated, but that's actually a simple trick. And people that are pros at counterpoint would say, like, what the hell are you saying right now? But it is true. So here I will solo this one. So what really works with pads and when you are sequencing the chords is like what you have here. So I have this note here, and then it goes down, and the note that is here, it goes up, and that gives a really pleasant chord progression. So, if you want to study that, study counterpoint. And I doubled the synth, and then I put one to the left and one to the right, and changed the parameters of one of the synths a bit so it sounds more wide. And then you have the bass line that is super in the center, and then the synths that go around it. That's the idea. So here I have this these bells. It's the melody I made for the bass line, but then I put all the octave shifts back on the same note, so they're not jumping, and adjusted it a bit, but it's sort of still the bass line. It's a melody that's based on a bass line, and the same for this one. And this sounds really crazy on its own. It's more like a trancey bed that goes with the bass. And in the whole mix, you are like, if you hear this separately, you're like, what the hell is this? Kind of Armin van Buuren thing. But in the whole thing, I think it works. And then I have this thing that goes on through the whole song, and it's I use a site a lot. It's called freesound.org, and it's my secret weapon because you can download free sounds from crazy stuff.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us a bit about what is up for what are your plans for the ambassade? Are you still doing that? Or
Of course, yeah. So with the ambassade, we are of course a band. So I do it with Pascal and Jippe. We're with the three of us, and we're just we are going to make a new album and write songs for that too. So,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, basically we have did all the questions. Well, maybe you can tell us a bit about what kind of plugins you use on Ableton, or
Yeah. So I have. Let's see if I can get this back. I decided to not use any illegal stuff or weird stuff anymore and buy all my plugins. So I'm
yeah,
pretty sparse now in terms of plugins, or at least. And I really swear by. So what I already said, I really swear by the Arturia stuff. So it's the Analog Lab, which has all the vintage synthesizers.
yeah.
And then I have also the Arturia effects. So it has it has a plate and a spring and some vintage tube compressor emulations as well. So that's really nice. And I use an VST called Glitch.
Okay.
So you can do the weird Aphex stutters with it. But it's really dangerous. You can really overuse that one and sound like Venetian snares on steroids or something. So you shouldn't overdo that one. And then I use the Sound Toys a lot, the effect rack. And actually, since I've been streamlining I bought a new computer which should work. And it doesn't work right now, what the hell. But bought a new 2020 MacBook Pro, and it still crashes. Thank you very much for that, Apple. But and I only bought I only installed everything that I frequently use. So it's actually only Sound Toys, Analog Lab, some FX plugins. And then the Glitch app, the Glitch VST, and what else do I use? Well, nothing interesting really. Some Tal free stuff. That's it. It's enough. You don't need anything else.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I think we will conclude this session, and well, thank you, Aniek, very much for this evening and for your time. And she will also be downloading or making an own sample pack, which you can download online, and we'll keep you updated, and I'll see you the next time. Bye.
Yeah.